All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, everybody. It's so cool to be on time. Wow. It's quite extraordinary. We're starting right on time.
I blame you.
All right. I think I can be blamed on this one. Yeah, absolutely.
I blame you.
And Kim is here. I love
Kim, how
my
are you?
Kim. Watched her this morning with Nikki Maduro. You guys do a little blast in the morning, and I enjoyed it. And also
Excellent.
here with Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Who is doing a blast of his own. He's handling videos and visuals for us today. We've got a very, very cool, packed show. So I'll give you a quick sense of what's happening. Then I'll get an update from the crew as to what went on this weekend. And I will tell you that I had an extraordinary weekend as well. I'm sure that Kim and Tony had extraordinary weekends. That's why I say as well. We have the Kristi Noem meltdown that she did on Face the Nation. She sort of filibustered and melted down. We'll talk about that. It's not just the dog. She's, invented a personal history, as is the want of many. And she just grandstands a lot in relation to it because she can't really address it substantively. So we'll have those pieces of the weekend appearances from Noem on Face the Nation. Also, Tim Scott, who was on Meet the Press, he does his own filibustering. This is the new thing. It must be the playbook, the political playbook, where you don't really answer a question. You just keep talking. I understand why that might have been a thing through the years, but it's now been taken to high art. So you'll see a little bit of that. I mean, it's clunky art, but it's art nonetheless. I have a new poll. But no, it's not just likely voters in swing states. It's a youth poll out of Harvard, and I'll share those results with you in a moment. It is a day that we will visit law and disorder, and a Democrat has been ensnarled is ensnarled a word? Will you check that quickly?
I don't think so. I think it's ensnared that you're looking for.
Ensnared, right.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like a real word to me, but I went with it anyway. And, yeah.
It could be a word. I'll look it up. But
all right, thank you.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
They leave me in a place where I've got to make up a word, so I did.
Luck in the ding word universe would have it, and snarl is actually a word.
I am seldom wrong about words, everyone.
To entangle, as if in a snarl.
Entangle is a better word, so
Well,
I
sure.
should have used that. Thank you. By the way, speaking of words, and this does relate to stuff on the show and videos and stuff that we get out, I got
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, this is kind of starting the show. I will let you know that I got an email this weekend. My email address and the email address of the show is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. If you want to reach us for any reason, you can. That's how
I've received a lot of positive letters.
So this one was about there it is, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. This is about the fact that the shorts we put out, they have captions. We have shorts with David K. Johnston, with any number of people, or some funky story we did, some crime story, and with David Katz, who just put out a couple that have really gotten a lot of traction. But the captions for the words that are spoken in those shorts, we don't handle those, and they're handled by probably an AI-related kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they can oftentimes have the wrong word up there for the thing that's being said. And so they oftentimes also can have the wrong spelling for a word that the AI doesn't know, or maybe it's a different language, it's being done wherever. So this happened over the weekend. Someone pointed out that the word fealty, which I had used, was misspelled in the short. Like, they didn't spell it F-E-A-L-T-Y, they spelled it F-I-E or something like that. We don't have any control over that. Now, sometimes I can catch it before it hits, and then I'll send an email. I'll say, hey, by the way, can you change the spelling on such and such a word? But there's one up there right now. in the latest David Katz video, where the judge would be loath to do something, but the AI heard low, L-O-W. So if you look, it just says the judge would be low to do something. And I didn't catch it in time, so it made it up there. But we don't really control that the way I'd like. And then once something is up, I can't, put the genie back in the bottle on that. So, but thank you for the email. So that was that. Also, I got a couple of emails that were related to when the next meetup is going to happen, which we will have to get organized. I've got to coordinate that with Kim and Tony and Albert and others. So that we will get going as well. It is a Monday, so a couple of things happen on Mondays, one of which is a true crime corner. Courtney will arrive with a true crime story, and this is a story that doesn't involve somebody being offed. It involves an elaborate and stupefying, truly can't believe this guy got away with this for so long, scam. High-end scam. And when you hear it, you'll go, and then what did the guy in is the most obvious and clunky thing that tipped them off to it being a scam. Imagine creating a scam so sophisticated for millions and millions and millions of dollars, and then it all goes poof because you didn't think through one thing. So that's happening this hour. We also have the great Buzzy Cohen from Jeopardy! He is the ninja of Jeopardy! He'll be through, and he has a new book. It's called Baby Got Facts. And I'm looking forward to getting into some of those facts. It's totally 90s trivia. So Buzzy will be through. Alex Trebek called Buzzy Cohen Mr. Personality. I adore Buzzy Cohen on everything. He's on an ABC show called The Chase. When he hosted Jeopardy, when they were looking for the next Alex Trebek, I thought Buzzy should have gotten it. Although Jennings obviously does a really nice job. And first Monday of the month, Karen Dawn comes through. Yeah, Karen with the word about animals. And as you know, animals very much in the news with the Kristi Noem decision to, instead of rehoming her dog, she just decided to off the dog in the moment. And then while I'm at it, I'll grab a goat and off that goat. So Karen has some thoughts on that, and she, of course, will put it in a broader context, which is kind of cool. Anything else I need to get to? Kim, anything from the weekend that you'd like to touch on?
No, I think we're good to carry through.
All right. Tony,
Move
do you have
forward,
anything that you'd like to touch on, please?
Thanks, Tony.
I worked. Angels lost again. That's about it.
Tony does the Angels games. He
Just kind of sometimes here and there.
Games.
Like a mercenary for them.
Yeah.
Here and there. But yeah.
Well, it's they gave away or they got rid of their guy, right?
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani. And he was the anyway.
And Trout's out injured again. Maybe we can talk to sports, but yeah.
Yeah, Trout out by injury. Well, there you go.
Again.
All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, let's get into it. Over the weekend, let's just put a button on this. She was really a political personality with great aspirations. I'm talking about Kristi Noem, and she included in those aspirations, and I think very much relevant in the conversation around vice president or vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. So this is not someone who is just some obscure legislator. She was very much in the national conversation. Big Trumpy, sort of tough on everything. One of those, tough on crime, tough on the border, tough on this, tough on... And so she brought her toughness into this new book. And so she describes in the new book offing the pet, which I'll get to in a moment. But I thought the noteworthy thing was the good way in which, is it Margaret Brennan at CBS handled her on Face the Nation about other allegations, in the new Kristi Noem book. So let's roll this, Tony. This is Kristi Noem on Face the Nation yesterday, talking about having met and dealt with Kim Jong-un, which is, by the way, a completely invented story. She never did meet him, but nonetheless, it's in her book. Here we go.
Remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un? I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all. Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, you know, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
No, I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels
I think
that
I've talked about it in the book. I have no idea
I'm not
what's
going
in
to
the
talk
book.
about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that that was adjusted. So
stop right there,
the book
Tony.
is not released until...
Stop. I would have loved to have heard this one. I thought, and Brennan did a really good job. What do you mean it shouldn't have been in the book? Did you write the book or not? I mean, that's the one question I would have liked to have seen. I mean, I'm sure you wrote it with a ghostwriter, but aren't you aware of what's in the book? I mean, this idea, she said it multiple times. The minute it was brought to my attention that this was in the book, I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Why can she not answer the question? So did you or did you not meet with them? No, I did not.
I met with a lot of world leaders. Who can keep them straight?
Right. It's ridiculous.
Go ahead, Tony, please.
Tuesday, and so we're doing all that we can to make sure that those changes are made, and I'm going to continue to focus on what this book is and the blueprint that it lays out for the American citizen, on all of the things in the background and stories of my life, but also what I think that needs to be identified in politics and what's broken today. I talk about how broken the money game is, how broken it is that we've got consultants that are getting rich off of elected officials, and then how fake some elected politicians are. Every single person in this country wants someone in elected office that's a human being, that doesn't say they're perfect. I take responsibility for that being in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I asked for it to be changed. So I'm glad that the release date is in a couple of days, and we're excited to talk to America about my new book, No Going Back.
So you talk about your time in the Armed Services Committee from 2013 to 2015. In that period of time, the leader of South Korea was a female president. I'm wondering, who is it that you confused Kim Jong-un with?
Well, I think you need to remember, Margaret, and everybody needs to remember that I've worked on ag policy and federal policy for over 30 years. My time in serving and making policies in this country has been extensive and covered decades.
Right, but you never went to North Korea.
Specifics in this book. I talk about the fact that, yes, I have. I've been there. So
you went to North Korea?
You went to the DMZ, and there are details in this book that talk about going to the DMZ and specifics that I'm willing to share. There's some specifics I'm not willing to share with you. I've traveled the world and I visited with world leaders, and some of that is referenced in the book, and this anecdote is something that, when it was brought to my attention, we made some changes, and when the book's released, we'll do all that we can to see that is reflected.
Okay. Well, I'm asking about that specifically because you made the point to bring him up twice, and that he was a little tyrant.
Do you have a question for me, Margaret?
Yes, I do. South Korea is a treaty ally. North Korea is a nuclear-armed adversary. So that's a pretty big thing to confuse. I know you read this book before it was published because you released video of your recording of the audiobook. You didn't catch these errors when you were recording it?
Oh, Margaret, as soon as it was brought to my attention, I took action to make sure that it was reflected. And listen, this is what is so discouraging about politics and the media today, is that we have the White House that just recently came out and confirmed that President Joe Biden has misspoken, has made mistakes, has even outright lied over close to 150 times just this year.
Oh my God, 150
and
times.
You've done nothing.
Donald Trump knocked that down before breakfast.
Any of that. And you're talking about a book that hasn't been released yet, that's been corrected before it's been released, and you haven't said one thing about Joe Biden saying that he was in prison with Nelson Mandela, that he started the civil rights movement.
What
if
about?
I had an interview with Joe Biden.
Yeah, this is the what about. But I mean, there's really nowhere for her to run. There's really no high ground on this, right? I mean, you invented this. You completely positioned yourself through a ghostwriter. I get that you had a ghostwriter, but you positioned yourself as, this tough talking, no nonsense political leader. And then, but you've invented a meeting you had. Yeah, it's Biden's fault. I have GOP bingo. Exactly. It's Biden's fault. And then she goes to what's discouraging about politics is, the media, what, asking you about your total. I mean, this is the craziness, though, without the media, and I think it's worth mentioning and remembering, without some decent journalism, and this is pretty, easy stuff. This person does not get called on the carpet. I mean, if this was a Fox News interview, they never would have touched on this, right? This is an invented fictional tale. And yet she positions herself as a leader who she has terrific national aspirations. Now, those aspirations are melting down, clearly. The second part of it is her on her dog. And let's just roll that, Tony, because this is something that most people are quite familiar with, but I thought it was... once again, in a way, I thought the Kim stuff was the most extraordinary thing. But to hear her double down, which is, the coin of the realm on the GOP side, the double down on the dog, it was pretty wild. Here we go.
I want to ask you again about the book. I know this question is coming because there's been such an enormous backlash about your revelation that you shot and killed a wire hair pointer named Cricket, who was 14 months old. You say in the book she came from another family that struggled with her aggression. You'd been training her to hunt. She got too excited, ruined the hunt, and then attacked and killed some chickens. I wonder if you have regrets about sharing this story.
This is what 10 pounds of fat.
Oh, that's the, yeah. They drop an ad on you. Okay, we'll get to
right there.
We'll watch the.
Margaret, this book is filled with vulnerable, painful moments in my life, filled with times where I've made very difficult decisions. The reason that the story is in the book, because people need to understand who I am and some of those difficult decisions. This was a dangerous animal that was killing livestock and attacking people. And I had little children at the time. Our operation had many kids running around and people in interaction with the public. And I made a difficult choice. I think you're a mother too, and you have little kiddos. Would you make a choice between your children or a dangerous animal? And I think I would ask everybody in the country to put themselves in that situation, because that's what I faced. And I talk about it because what I'm tired of in this country is politicians who pretend to be something that they're not. That they aren't willing to have the hard conversations and look at the past and the tough decisions that they've made. What I talk about in the book extensively when people are able to get it on Tuesday is to see the whole story and the truth, not the spin that the media has put on this story. The media has put some or removed most of the facts, and what the reason this is in there is because I want people to know that I don't ask anybody else to take on my responsibilities. I understood my responsibility. And as a mom, I made a choice between protecting my children and protecting them from a dangerous animal that was killing livestock and attacking people.
Kiddos.
Well,
and that's the decision that I made.
I described, I think, accurately how you wrote it up in the book. You didn't say the dog attacked people. You said it had tried to bite you. And I just wonder why you concluded that a young dog was untrainable and not just take it to a shelter.
This dog was a working dog, and it had come from a family that already had issues with this dog. And I had put months and months of training into this dog. This dog had gone to other trainers as well. So all of that is the facts of the story, and all of that shows that when you put someone in a position where they have to make a decision and they want to protect their family and protect children and other people from getting attacked from an animal that has attacked others and killed livestock, that's the choice I made over 20 years ago. And that I didn't ask somebody else to take that responsibility for me, that I had to make that decision myself.
Because you put
Is there any way you could blame Joe Biden for the killing of your dog, Ms. No? Yeah. You get the idea. Although I was quite impressed by Margaret Brennan. I thought she did a really nice job of sort of staying on point, but I was just struck by this thing that they do, and Noem is out in front on it, where you just filibuster, throw in blaming the media, throw in Joe Biden and your talking points about Joe Biden. It's just so weak.
Well,
but,
how ridiculous is it that she's blaming the media for not getting the facts right on her book? She can't even get the facts straight in her own book. She can't even write the story. We got to edit it. We got to make sure that by the time it's released, it's actually true. Lord, and you're blaming the media? Please.
This from Mars. Kristi doesn't even deserve the attention like Santos, but y'all talk about her, which is exactly what she wants. Why do drifter imbecile get more media coverage than real good humans? Lazy journalism. Well, I told you at the beginning before we ran the clips, Mars, why I thought she's relevant. I mean, she was very much part of the national conversation and was talked about as a front runner to perhaps be on the top of ticket with Donald Trump. So I don't think it's fair to say that she, is not, that we're just doing it because it's more media coverage and imbecile journalism, whatever, lazy journalism. I also would contend that she doesn't want this. You say it's exactly what she wants. Are you kidding? You think she wants that interview? She's done. She's toast, brother. Okay, she's through. And that interview helped bury her even further below ground than she was before that interview started. So she did say she suggested getting rid of Biden's dog Commander the same way. That's right. That's in the interview. I'm sorry. Thank you for that reminder. Tony, you still have it up? You can play it a little bit more. She gets to that next. She talks about the fact that essentially the White House has this dangerous animal in the confines of the White House. And during the time that they've had the animal there, it attacks Secret Service agents. Commander, shouldn't say it. People in the animal rights world and the animal world don't like it when, he attacked or bit a Secret Service agent. So I'll say attacked. But I wonder if, so speak to that, Tony. She kind of tried to tie Commander to her situation with Cricket. Do you still have it up?
Commander's a completely different situation. Commander's a rescue dog. And so probably put into a situation in the White House where shouldn't have been, because there have been 24 incidents and reports of biting type of things going on with Commander. And you know what the president did? Removed him from the home,
right.
Put him with friends who could handle him, right? Took him out of a situation where clearly it wasn't working. Didn't take him to a gravel pit and open fire. Totally different.
Yeah. Cheryl says, I heard the interview in real time. It was disgusting and completely evasive. Yeah, I heard it also in real time. It was wild. In fact, after I sent a text to some journalist friends of mine going, wow, she thought she could own this situation, and then the situation owned her. There really, as I say, is no high ground. When you start making up facts about meeting world leaders and this dog situation, I don't see, it's indefensible. I mean, she is playing it off like I did the tough job of, executing these animals. But so I take it, Tony, that you don't have that. Okay. Or Tony dropped
Thanks,
off.
Tony.
All right. I don't know what's happened. But anyway, yeah, she tries to turn it to Biden by talking about Commander in the White House. So anyway, that's your...
The Mark Thompson Show.
If you had a bad weekend, it probably wasn't as bad as Kristi Noem. She is out of the conversation with Trump, and she's not even, I would say, in much of a national conversation of any kind. Now, I'm hoping Tony's still around because I wanted to play Tim Scott, who also does his version of total evasion, on the question of whether he would accept the election results if Donald Trump doesn't win in this next election. Here's Tim Scott on Meet the Press.
This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait,
and high
Senator, yes or
enthusiasm.
no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the deal.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said, and I know that the American people, their voices will be heard, and I believe that President Trump will be our next president. It's that simple.
But, Senator, as you know, the hallmark of our democracy is that both candidates agree to a peaceful transfer of power. So I'm asking you, as a potential VP nominee, will you accept to commit to the election results in this election cycle, no matter who wins? Just simply yes or no.
I expect President Trump to win the next election. Listen, I'm not going to answer your hypothetical question when, in fact, I believe the American people are speaking today on the results of the election. And if it continues for the next 6 months, we find ourselves in a great position where we get back to another century of American prosperity.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Let me ask you about...
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you can see. I mean, he's, again, filibuster, the evasion, the evasion class that they all must have taken via Zoom during COVID, that was pretty effective. They all seem to sing from the same hymnal. But that's Tim Scott. And again, the reason Tim Scott's important, first of all, he's an important talking head who is clearly Trump. He's so in the tank for Trump. But he's also being talked about in the vice presidential conversation, although long shot, I would say, but nonetheless, he's being talked about that way. He's being asked to give an honest... Go ahead.
He's asking to give an honest answer and attacks the media because he refuses to be honest.
There
right?
it is, from Guitar Dog. Thank you for that.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so true. I love how they didn't let up.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought both interviewers, and I'm not always impressed with both of them, but I thought both of them, in this case anyway, were dogged, using the word deliberately, in their pursuit of an answer in both cases and in the various topics that they got to. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have news. Of course, the breaking news in the moment is that Donald Trump has been, warned by the court once again as he's cited in contempt. And Kim will have more on that in her newscast. But we've detailed it both with David K. Johnston and with in a number of shorts and in longer conversations with David Katz, the options open to the judge. And one of the options open to the judge doesn't involve throwing Trump in jail for 30 days. He could be thrown into the jail that's there in the courthouse for a matter of hours, maybe even just for the lunch break, whatever it might be. So that might be coming. Katz sort of hatched that on this show. Now you're hearing it more, I think, in the general conversation, because clearly, as noted by the judge, the fines don't work. So, hey, there's good news. We are a show, I'll mention that
The Mark Thompson Show.
We're a show that was born from a radio show in San Francisco, California on KGO Radio, which is this giant talk radio station. And so we're a news and politics-centric show, but through this show are all kinds of people who have nothing to do necessarily with news and politics, like Buzzy Cohen is going to be through in the next hour, and like True Crime Corner, which we're going to be doing in a few minutes. But because we come out of the Bay Area, we like to kind of keep an eye on things that are happening in the Bay Area and in California. We have a lot of viewers and listeners in the Bay Area and in California. So I wanted to share some good news, because usually we have stories of, rip-offs and store closures and everything's going awful, public defecation and all the rest in the city of San Francisco. But check this out. California tourism. What's that?
There's a reason this place is fun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have issues.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
But the weather in California, everyone. If you're going to watch public defecation, I mean, why not do it with great weather? The new tourist economy numbers, pretty impressive. Freshly released data showing that California's tourist economy has recovered from its pandemic. Reached a record high, in fact. At $150.4 billion, travel spending across the state last year surpassed the previous record of $144.9 billion. There's a new report that's just been published by Visit California, a nonprofit that keeps track of marketing and developing strategies to increase tourism in the state. Not only was spending 3.8% higher than in 2019, which was the high water mark prior, it also surpassed 2022 levels by 5.6%. So year to year, it's going up. Very impressive. The areas that spending exceeded pre-pandemic levels, 34 out of 58 counties, including San Diego, Orange, and Los Angeles counties. The Bay Area, which earns more than any other part of the state from tourism, suffered especially hard from the COVID-19 crisis, but the report finds that the San Francisco Bay Area has recovered to 97% of its 2019 levels in direct travel spending.
What?
Yes. California tourism is back where it belongs, said the president and CEO of Visit California, the state's tourism marketing organization. The industry has once again proved its ability to recover from any challenge, whether it be economic or environmental. So that is good news for many who are connected to the tourism industry. And might I say also for California, because we need money that comes from what? Sales tax. So these are things that are directly related to the number of people who come to California for tourism. So congratulations, all of you in the hotel business, all of you in the tourism-related industries in California. Things are coming back.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And there is a new survey that is out about this California town, known for stunning scenery, easy transport, and it's one of the last affordable places to buy in the Bay Area. While average house prices in San Francisco have soared past the $1 million mark, Bay Point, everybody. You can pick up a place for a fraction of that price at Bay Point in Contra Costa County. The new information from Zillow is indicating that prices have leapt by almost 27% since 2020, but Bay Point still remains comparatively affordable.
Isn't it? It's right on the water, too.
Exactly. You've got those. Yeah. Kim is right. It's on the water.
Inland, like, far reaches of the East Bay, but still.
Yeah. What do you think? From San Francisco, almost, depends on traffic, but I was going to say.
With traffic, 2.5 hours, maybe.
No, with no traffic, maybe an hour.
About an hour-ish,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
A typical Bay Point home sells for $541,000. That's like less than half of what the average home in San Francisco's general metro area sells for. But there are even better bargains to be had at Bay Point, they say. One Zillow listing for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom property with a spacious porch.
That's a mobile home.
Well, I mean, you can put it that way.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but,
My mobile home on Bay Point. I can't wait to use my 1 bathroom and 1 bedroom. The surge in house prices in the Bay Area, a lot of demand makes Bay Point very relevant. So good luck, Bay Pointers. Meantime, I'll just mention one last thing. I hate too much good news, Kim, because I view the world as a bleak place getting bleaker. That's right. Humanity bent on its own destruction. And yes, humanity bent on its own destruction and undoing. Thank you. So I like a little practical bad news, and here it is in California. Home insurance prices for the Californians that lost their home insurance over the past few years. Some of the state's largest insurers, as you know, have pulled out of California. Some will limit where they write new policies, and others have stopped writing new policies altogether. Most of the state's 10 largest insurers say they're still offering new policies and renewing existing ones. That's the good news. The bad news is that the prices are going up tremendously. They rose last year at an average of 20% across the state. I mean, that's a big number to insure your home. 20% higher than the normal bill you'd get.
And then what happens if you have a claim? Something happens and you need to file. I mean, have to question, okay, did your roof leak? Is it worth paying the $5,000 to fix it yourself or pushing it through your insurance company? Don't push it through your insurance company now, right? Because then they're going to cancel you.
Yes. This is always the question you have. I mean, do I claim this or don't I? How might it affect my rates?
Right.
So you're really quite right to mention that. And I'll tell you this, and we can tell you that from personal experience, and Courtney just came into the studio. Once you make a claim, because as you know, our neighborhood burned to the ground.
Right.
And once you make a claim, you're done with that insurance company. It's really hard to get insurance after you've made a claim. I mean, you have to make a claim. You lost your house.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's a real tough position that you're left in the future. What do I do here, Kim? Do we have time for a turbo news and then Courtney?
I think so.
All right. So smash the like button if you would, please. A free thing you can do.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah. Smash it with your iron rod. Or just a quick thumbs up. It's free.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Share the show in every way you do. We're a crowd-funded show. We kind of operate on the NPR PBS model, which is sort of like, if you like this show, please see to it that it continues through your Patreon and PayPal contributions and through super stickers and super chats. We will actually recognize a couple of new Patreon members and Patreon supporters in the minutes to come. Also, PayPal. So there are hot links to both Patreon and PayPal underneath this video and underneath all our videos. All right, Kim's News and then True Crime Corner. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards at tenutavineyards.com. Let us start here where the Hamas, just Hamas, has reportedly accepted a ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar. This comes as Israel had warned Palestinians about a ground invasion of southern Gaza near the city of Rafah. Details about the ceasefire haven't been announced, so we're still waiting to hear more about it. Former President Trump is indeed back in the New York City courtroom for the criminal hush money trial. The judge in the case found him in contempt of court for a 10th time for violating a gag order. He told Trump that the court will have to consider a jail sanction going forward for any further violations of this gag order. Oh, this is going to get interesting, right? Columbia University will not hold its main graduation ceremony. The decision to cancel the university-wide commencement ceremony came after weeks of pro-Palestinian protests on the New York City campus. Security concerns reportedly the main cause for the cancellation. The pro-Palestinian protest encampment over on the campus at USC is no more. Los Angeles and university police officers in riot gear cleared the encampment early Sunday morning. No reports of any arrests or major confrontations between protesters and police. The encampment in Alumni Park had been rebuilt after it was first cleared April 24th. Sunday morning's operation lasted a little more than an hour, so now it's gone. This is a horrible situation in the Long Beach area. 7 people are wounded after a shooting in Long Beach, 4 of them in critical condition. The shooting happened about 11:15 Saturday night between a bar and a strip mall. Detectives think at least 2 men opened fire on a group of people, then took off before officers arrived. The shooting is believed to be gang-related, and so far no arrests there. This is a sad story. The remains of 3 people found near a Mexican fishing port have been identified as the trio of missing surfers from the United States and Australia. Authorities say the bodies are those of brothers Jake and Callum Robinson of Australia and American Jack Carter Road. The Ensenada Medical Examiner's Office said the trio were killed by gunshot wounds to the head. 3 Mexican nationals have been arrested, and so far they have not been charged with murder yet. But what a sad story there.
Well, I mean, I was reading also that they think that they were murdered for their tires. They were attacked for their tires.
How crazy.
I mean, it's insane. And I don't know. It's just so sad because they're, as you say, they're surfers, and it's, boy, I mean, Mexico is one of these places. It's still it's a terrific country in some ways, but there are fewer and fewer places you can go and really ensure your own safety.
No. As you mentioned earlier, Mark, it's true. California tourism is at an all-time high, and Governor Gavin Newsom declared yesterday in a video posted on social media, he recorded it from the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. He says visitors are coming to experience the wonder of his state, from a world-renowned coastline to the world's tallest trees to the iconic cities and theme parks. New data shows last year's spending topped a record-breaking $150 billion.
Wow.
There's never been anything like this.
All right. Yeah.
I mean,
I give him credit for being at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's not easy. I mean, have you been up there?
I have not. I've been under it and over it, but never on top of it.
Man, that is one scary perch. But I mean,
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah, and then he's smashing it with his iron rod at the same time. Impressive.
I mean, he is very talented. He really is.
He's good.
Yeah.
Good at that stuff.
Attention shoppers. Attention, Mark Thompson shoppers. There's a new push to get rid of self-checkouts across the state. Could happen under a proposed bill if grocery and pharmacy stores don't meet certain requirements. The goal is to change regulations in hopes of cutting down on thefts. It would also boost employment by increasing the number of employees monitoring the stations. The California Chamber of Commerce is against this, saying it could hurt business.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I get that it boosts employment, of course, but it's interesting, the theft aspect to that. I don't know. I honestly love the self-checkout now. I didn't like it initially, but now I do. It does cut down on lines. People seem averse to using it, so there's seldom a wait. Yeah.
Oh, well, I like to talk to people, so I don't use that checkout. I have to go. I'd like to go through the real one.
Hold on. Courtney wants to say something.
I hear her in the background.
Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
I like the Instacart self-checkout.
Yeah, Courtney
That's
hasn't
really
been
self-checkout.
I'm with someone who hasn't been to a grocery store in years. Isn't there a way they could just bring us the stuff? I just ask for it and they bring it to the house.
That's my favorite.
I like to wake up and think about what I am going to. Oh, it'll be brought magically to me, and other people will drive it to me. Yes.
This music's got a lot of play this morning.
I'm excited about my new music, you can tell. Go ahead.
The first person to cross the finish line at this year's Orange County Marathon, disqualified. Organizers.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It happened. Organizers say Fountain Valley resident Esteban Prado broke the rules on Sunday by taking fluids from a spectator.
Wow.
Runners
Runners
are only allowed to take water from official hydration stations.
Of course.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Of course.
You can't take anything from a passerby. Jason Yang of San Pedro was instead declared the winner, finishing with a time of...
So the top finisher was disqualified because he took water from a... Oh,
Right.
Oh my God.
It's really brutal.
Winning time for Jason Yang, 2 hours, 25 minutes, 11 seconds. Yeah. Gabriella Smith of Lynchburg, Virginia was the first woman to finish. She did it in 3 hours, 5 minutes, 30 seconds. She's won 1 for 1. It was her first marathon there. So that's good.
That is is wild. Wow. Well, it's...
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
I guess not.
Feels like
Because
something
we
they
have...
Well, it feels like something they would have covered in training.
Yeah, don't take any water from the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Only take it from the official spot.
It's very Georgia election line. Exactly.
Wow.
No water. You're out there in the heat. No water.
It doesn't matter. You can't do it. Because we're very cultural here on the Mark Thompson Show, one of fashion's biggest parties of the year will go down in New York City tonight. Zendaya, Bad Bunny, Chris Hemsworth, and Jennifer Lopez will serve as hosts of this year's Met Gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This year's theme, Garden of Time.
Oh, wow, exciting.
From 2024!
No,
Is Maga Mickey going to be there?
No, Maga Mickey is not invited.
Maga Mickey loves the Met!
From 2024!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's not going to work. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You got the Mother's Day specials. Mother's Day coming right up.
Oh, yes.
May 12th. And so they have a beautiful event, catered, really nice out at the winery. Call Rich to reserve a table. You can also, or if you want to, order custom labels with a picture of you and your mom.
Oh,
Pick
that's
any
a great
wine
idea.
to put your picture on, including the Why Are You Yelling Red. If you want to
Sure.
slap that picture of your mom over Mark's
Why are
mug,
you yelling?
you could totally do it. It's okay. Mark won't be upset because it's Mother's Day, you know.
Exactly right.
Yes. You can get your 10% discount as well. Smash it with your iron rod is the phrase that pays. All you have to do is call Rich at 925-699-4576. You can also email Rich at Tenuta Vineyard, Tenuta, Rich at tenutavineyard.com. So whether you're just ordering a case or whether you're reserving your Mother's Day table, that is the way to get in touch with them. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. Right on. It is a Monday, and on Mondays, we welcome in my other half. She comes in this,
wow.
dreamy way. It's my new dreamy music. She's Courtney, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. Very, very cool, Courtney.
Thank you.
We had a big weekend, Kim and everyone. We had a big weekend because Courtney got dressed up.
I did. Yeah. Not for the Met Gala.
And we left the house to do an event for the LAPD. I was emceeing an event for the Los Angeles Police Department. Now, the fact is that Courtney's constantly in touch with the Los Angeles Police Department because she is always on the phone to 911 because she believes they should be here all the time.
Yeah, they should. And I would consider myself a concerned citizen.
Yes.
Yeah, and thorough, you know. We had this conversation when you were gone about my nightly rounds.
I see. Yeah, you did have. You do make nightly. You do make a perimeter check constantly. Let me just settle this now before there's a problem. Mark, that is Michael Snyder's theme music. You're a thief. No, Michael Snyder's theme music is not that. This is Michael Snyder's theme music. Okay, that's Michael Snyder's theme music. My new music that I like is this music. There is a difference, you see.
There is a difference.
And Phineas, I'm putting you on timeout for not knowing that difference. My God. I mean, that really is.
With
I think
one, you get really bad movie and TV recommendations.
Yeah. Actually, Phineas, it's a warning. I'm not going to put you on timeout. It was just a warning. We issue a warning. It's a yellow card first. And so, anyway, before any more time can click by, we need to do it. This is True Crime Corner.
Let's pay a visit to Mark's True Crime Corner.
This is not a good neighborhood. I'm scared.
Now, here's your host, Mark Thompson.
And here she is, my other half, who is obsessed with true crime, even as I could give a rat's A about it. It's Courtney, everybody.
Hi again. Hello. Yep.
Yep.
We have a really interesting story this
You
week.
do have an interesting story, and I'm excited that there's no one loses their life in this story, which is kind of what
one person does.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh,
do you think I would bring a story without a death, Mark?
All right. Okay. All right. All right, Courtney, get us started.
All right. So the story this week is about a man who spent 30 years impersonating the Saudi royal family.
Wow.
Ooh, it's a
And
wild
then-
idea, but it just might work.
And it did work
Yeah.
for 30 years.
It worked for 30 years.
That's unreal.
And how he gets caught will be very surprising.
Oh,
Because after 30 years, the way he's caught is just inconceivable.
Okay.
So it starts with this man named Jose Moreno.
I see him on the left in the Metro Dade booking photo.
Yep. I would suggest in this collection of photographs, Foxy, the black chihuahua, is really the biggest victim of this whole thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that, I guess.
But so Jose Moreno is born in 1970 in Bogota, Colombia. And he and his brother are orphaned. So they're living on the streets of Bogota. And he's actually trafficked. This poor little boy and his brother, he's a couple years older than his brother. And they end up in an orphanage. And a couple from East Lansing, Michigan, adopt them and bring them to the U.S. They're about 7 years old. So when they come to the U.S., they rename Jose Anthony. So his name becomes Anthony Enrique Gignac. And so he's in East Lansing with his brother, and it's predominantly Caucasian. And he is bullied and left out a little bit. And so he starts to create these stories about his wealthy birth parents and his wealthy birth grandparents. A lot of that comes from wealth in Colombia at the time, really saved you and protected you from being harmed. And so he carried that through and started to create these narratives at a very young age. And in fact, when he's 12 years old, Anthony Enrique Gignac goes to a Mercedes-Benz dealership. He's in 6th grade. And he tells the dealership that he is a Saudi Arabian prince and that his father will be buying him a car. And so instead of laughing him out of the dealership, they put him in a couple of the cars and take him on some test drives.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he's driving around with the dealership and he's telling them that his father, who is the king of Saudi Arabia, will come and pay for the cars. He selects a car that he wants. And when the king of Saudi Arabia does not show up or send money, they call the police. And this is the first time that Anthony is put into therapy as a response to what would be a very big lie for such a young child. His parents divorce, his adoptive parents divorce. His brother goes with his father. Anthony stays with his mother. And that separation is really additional trauma for Anthony, who has only known his existence with his brother and really had these traumatizing memories and experiences as a child. And so
his young life has been marked by all of these separations, and the things that he becomes connected to are taken from him.
And this puts him in a mental facility.
Wow.
And so he's in an institution and he runs away at 17 and he comes to Los Angeles. So he leaves the Midwest, he comes to Los Angeles, and it's here in Los Angeles as a teenager that he continues this misrepresentation or lie or impersonation of the Saudi prince. He's staying at fancy hotels.
Oh, so he fired up the impersonation again.
Yes.
Yeah. New crowd.
New crowd.
New big banging market, Los Angeles.
New.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's the 90s. No, it's 1987. So stretch limos, big wealth, right? Symbol. Are they still? Do people still take stretch limos?
I think you're right to kind of point to the fact that in a way we've kind of positioned now to it's the Suburbans, it's the dark, right? It's the
like when we call black car, it's the Suburban.
Right.
But so that's when he starts. If you go down, sorry, Tony, that's when he starts to very specifically impersonate.
Yeah, those are the pictures that we were seeing.
Yeah. So on the right hand side is the Prince Khalid bin Zayed.
And he's saying that he's his what?
He's saying that he's impersonating him.
Okay, he's saying I'm Prince Khalid bin Al Saud.
Al Saud, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so this is the person that he impersonates then for the next 25, 30 years.
So we're seeing two pictures, Sultan bin Khalid Al Saud on the left and Prince, who is the son then of the guy on the
son,
left.
yeah.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
So he racks up bills at the Beverly Regent Hotel, at a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of stretch limo
And he just says,
companies.
my dad's going to pay it?
Yeah,
or
my
what?
dad's going to pay. My dad's going to pay.
But how long could you get away with that? You told me it's 30 years this whole one thing went on.
Well, he gets arrested for...
I see.
He gets arrested about 10 or 11 times before like the big frauds happen, which are millions of dollars. And then after Los Angeles, he actually goes up to San Francisco, spends some time in San Francisco, gets arrested. He then goes back home to Michigan. In Michigan, he convinces some frat guys, which, by the way, probably wasn't that difficult, that he's a prince.
Yeah, they're not vetting quite the way that some of these others
in
might
between their, like, beer bongs, he's
Yeah.
telling them that he's a prince, and so he takes some money and alcohol and food from them. But he eventually ends up in Florida. And so in Florida is where a large part of his crimes really begin. If you go down, there's a picture of him being arrested here in 1994 in Florida. There's another picture of him being arrested in Orlando in 2002.
Wow. So even though Florida's a good place to do your criming, he was trying to crime a little too much in Florida and is arrested.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Florida really does become home, but many of his arrests are in Florida. And so then if you go down, they show kind of they quote $65,000 Mercedes that he's driving. And you can see in the trunk of the Mercedes, as they're arresting him, the extraction of all of these high-priced luxury items that he has in the trunk. He went on major shopping sprees. He actually also penetrated into the royal family's house accounts at Neiman Marcus and at Saks Fifth Avenue.
So now you're buying things and they are being paid.
Yeah, and people were believing him. He was speaking fake Arabic, and people were believing him.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Like no one was checking him out. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Okay, so if you go to the next visual. Thank you. So in 2015, he starts an Instagram account. And his Instagram account is on the below right corner if you're watching, Prince Dubai _07, which I was asking you this morning. I mean, well, first of all, no royal family, Saudi royal family is going to have an Instagram account, much less one that's the seventh of the Princes of Dubai.
Yeah.
And this is just one example of the really garish, awful posts that he makes trying to show off his wealth.
Yeah, maybe a little too much peacocking is what does him in.
I mean, it's all
So he's got
watches,
is that a Ferrari,
Ferraris.
ring, watches, cash?
Yeah, this looks like stuff he Googled, like, $1 million in an attaché or whatever.
But maybe he didn't. I mean, that could have been his money. You're saying that he once he'd penetrated the royal account, then all of these various expenditures, even as lavish as they are, they were covered by the royal account.
Yeah, they were covered by the royal account. Yep. And so he's posting on Instagram. If you go down, it's just crazy and over the top. He gets arrested again for stealing money from the royal family. It comes mostly from these house accounts that he's been charging to. And he gets put into jail. And he's in Florida. And so he starts calling defense attorneys and saying, I'm the prince. I'm a Saudi prince. My father is the king. He will pay you back. Can you get me out of jail? And one defense lawyer takes the bait and has some bail guys go and get him out for $46,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And eventually the police call the defense attorney who calls the bail guys and says, that guy's not a prince from Saudi Arabia. He's definitely not a prince from Saudi Arabia. And so as the bail guys are driving him back to jail, Anthony says, hey, can we stop off at an American Express office? And so they do. And he goes into the American Express office and he starts a sob story that he was mugged and his dad's going to be very angry with him because he's lost his credit cards. And so he convinces them that he is the prince.
Wow, he must really have a line.
To verify that he is the prince, they ask him, where were your last 2 charges? And he explains exactly where and what they were. And so they issue him a black card with, how big do you think that credit line was?
Well, hang on a second. He knows the last 2 expenditures because he has a connection?
Because he has a connection with the prince. He has worked with some of the security detail. And so they are telling
some
him.
people are connected to the prince, have access to the account and say, oh, the last 2 expenditures were this. So then he says to American Express, he relates the accurate information. What would the credit line be? I don't know. $500,000?
Yeah. Oh, that's adorable.
What is it?
It's $200 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So now he's got a black card very prominently all over his Instagram.
$200 million?
$200 million.
Why wouldn't you just, isn't there a way to hit it hard? And I guess maybe that's what he did.
Well, he does weird things. Like he books the entire first class of flights that he flies across the country with instead of just flying private, right? It's kind of weird. He also will book out like an entire floor of hotel rooms. He goes and he buys 2 Rolexes with the bail guys because that was his payment to the inside security team that was helping him with the information around what the real prince was doing and where he was spending.
Wow.
So he has enough forethought to
take care of the people who've been helping him.
But also to gain access to that.
Right.
But then doesn't have enough thought or like real conceiving of this whole thing to like learn Arabic or
just
really
to
study,
keep his expenditures in any way
or
manageable.
just leave the country with a $200 million
Exactly.
credit
Take the 200
line.
and run.
Joe Box and Little Anthony.
Yeah, he needed Joe Box and Little Anthony. Go ahead.
So this is the card. Again, I would suggest Universal Studios, probably not something that the Saudi royal family is going to visit, but a lot of pictures of meat and cars. And then I thought these were really interesting. These are from his Instagram, and I thought that, to me, does not look like a royal Saudi holiday, the one on the left.
Yeah, looks like looks like a lunch at Chipotle.
And so, again, underscoring he's really working at 2 distinct areas of like conflict, of like understanding some of the things he needed to do to create this story, but really not understanding how the wealthy would live. And so there, of course, is the Hard Rock Hotel, which I'm very confident that the royal family has never been to, Saudi royal family has never been to. So if you go to the next slide, this is Foxy, and Foxy is the love of his life. It is Foxy is his baby Chihuahua, and Foxy, poor thing, is in every single Instagram post, is adorned with diamonds and Gucci, and poor thing sits in these ridiculous cars listening to very loud music, being dragged around the world with this man who is, of course, pretending to be Saudi prince. So if you go down, if you're watching, you can see all of this. So I brought some of these in because he was clearly Googling like royal Saudi family and then posting that on Instagram with words like fam and uncle and dad. And, people are getting why. Well, now people are going back and saying things, related to that. But it was very clear if you go down that a lot of these photos are just him Googling what he thought would be convincing evidence of who he actually was.
But the reality is he didn't have to do this. This all really led to his undoing, I would imagine. At some point, don't people start to, as you say, sort of think, this just isn't quacking like he's a real Saudi prince.
He's not in any of the photos. They clearly look like they're Google.
I mean, the one on the right, at least it looks like maybe a kid who is kind of similar looking to him is being held by somebody who could be a Saudi prince, who might not be a Saudi king or whatever. Anyway, go ahead. We're running out of time. So
I know.
Please.
I'm trying to go quick. So if you go down a little bit further, we get to where the first of his very large crimes begins. So he moves into an apartment in Fisher Island,
which is the high-end place.
It's
Tom
a man-made
Brady's got a
island.
place there. Yeah.
Tom Brady, Oprah, anyone wealthy is living in Florida is living.
So
on
this is
Fisher
open.
Island.
He buys this place.
No, he's renting it for
I see.
$15,000 a month, but he's telling everybody that he owns that entire complex that you're looking at.
Okay.
And so if you go down, this is right around the time where he meets this gentleman, Carl Martin Williamson. He's sort of known as like a master global networker, and they meet in 2015. And this is when there is the beginnings of conversations around an IPO for Aramco, which is the Saudi oil company. Yeah. So they decide and they collude to take people's money and say that, the prince, aka Anthony, has access to an earlier part of the IPO. And so people start to give Anthony money to get into this IPO, to get his shares of Aramco as being part of the royal Saudi family.
So now he has a cash flow.
He has $8 million. One person gave him $5 million. And so Carl helps him with that. And if you go down, they go so far as Carl orders him diplomat license plates from eBay, and they're driving around with them.
This is wild. Absolutely wild. This is an utter BS line that has been that nets him tens of millions of dollars.
Yes, and you would think, oh yeah, that's enough. The $200 million credit line, the $8 million that he now has with Carl. But you would be wrong, Mark, because the Fontainebleau Hotel is looking for investors because they're trying to revamp the hotel. And so our Anthony gets very excited about being associated with Jeffrey Salfer and his family and other billionaires that own this hotel. And so Carl helps to negotiate a meeting with Jeffrey Salfer. Here is the Fontainebleau. Am I saying that correctly?
Right, yeah.
And so Anthony, aka the prince, offers $440 million for 30% of the hotel, which is a gross over-evaluation of the property.
Oh, so they scoop that up in a second.
Like, sure, done. So he meets Jeffrey, and they are going to go to Jeffrey's private home in Aspen. Mm-hmm. And so if you go to the next slide and kind of sit here for a second. So do you have the video, or is it too difficult to play?
I don't have time to play it, really.
Okay.
I'm way behind, please.
Okay, so I'll just speak quickly. So Jeffrey takes him to Aspen. They get into an argument because Jeffrey's doing some due diligence.
There is the video, though.
There's the video. This has been taken down probably because of Jeffrey Salfer's family, but you can see he's sort of showing his watch, which he does in every single video. And then there's the image of Jeffrey Salfer. So they go to Aspen, and Jeffrey does some due diligence on the prince, asking if he really does own that large complex in Fisher Island. The prince finds out that he's doing that. They get into an argument. And so Jeffrey buys him that Cartier Panther bracelet as a gift because Carl and the representatives for the prince say you have to buy him a $50,000 gift to get back into his good graces. So Jeffrey buys him that bracelet, and then they are in Aspen. They're at Jeffrey's private home, and they go to dinner. And at dinner, Jeffrey's making small talk with him, and he notices that the prince orders prosciutto, and pork is forbidden.
So there's no way that a
Islam.
Saudi prince would order prosciutto.
No way.
That would be that is truly way, way, way out of bounds.
Way out of bounds. So imagine he's gotten this far, and this is not the photo at dinner. I'll explain this in a second, and he's sitting with Jeffrey Salfer, and he's about to be part of the Fontainebleau. And he orders prosciutto. Now, Jeffrey doesn't say anything. He just makes note of the fact that this alleged prince is eating pork, and he hires a private investigator. And it is, in fact, that prosciutto that takes him down.
That is just unreal.
It's unreal. That photo, actually, that I showed is something from his Instagram a year earlier, and there's pork. So anybody who had been following him on Instagram and known it was him would have known. But it's really interesting that this one mistake that he makes sends him to jail for 18 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. No pork, no jail time. and you get away with all of that money.
Yeah, if you had just gone away or not, or to the point we were making earlier, just a little bit more research on what you're supposed to do. It's truly remarkable. And in fact, all those diamonds and the watches and everything, which I was trying to show you, all fake. It was all fake. Like, he was spending money, but he still didn't have access to like all of the money that he was perpetuating as part of this lie. On social. So,
absolutely wild.
Really, really interesting story. He is in jail. The sad part is that Carl ends up committing suicide December 16th, 2017. The police come to his house. He says he didn't know that Anthony was not a prince. He believed him to be a prince. And then after they left, he committed suicide.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
And this is more recent photos of Anthony. So
I know you, as an aficionado of true crime, probably delighted that somebody lost their life in all of this, even though it was poor Carl, who was also taken in, and investors were sucked in by his line of.
Yeah. I mean, they both could be on a beach somewhere very far away enjoying life, but
Social Butterfly Beauty says, wow, Courtney, great story. Nuts.
Well, yeah.
The moral of the story, says A-Golf, is research your grift.
Or get out early.
Yeah.
Know your timing. So.
Right. Okay.
But in all seriousness, it's a very sad ending and a very crazy
It's a
story.
remarkable tale, though, because here's this kid who's kicked from orphanage to orphanage. He, essentially grows up on the street. Then he comes up with this scheme and he's called out on the scheme multiple times. In fact, arrested multiple times, but still ultimately one time he pulls the scheme off. And then once he had somebody who was on the insider in the Saudi family.
Yeah, that really helped.
Then he could really take it to another level. Yeah. Wow, that was a great, great, great one, Courtney. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
That is True Crime Corner for today.
True Crime Corner, only on the Mark Thompson Show.
And how about it for Courtney, everybody? Courtney, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really, really great. Stick around and you'll be able to enjoy a little Buzzy Cohen, who is one of our faves.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a reason to listen.
Yeah, you got it. All right.
I needed one.
Thanks, Courtney.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yes. Smash the like button like a boss. It costs you nothing. Wow. Kim, anything I have to do? Tony, anything I have to do before I bring on our distinguished guest?
No, I think we have to go right to him.
Yeah, exactly. So without any further delay, look, this guy, if you've watched this show, listened to this show when it was on the radio, you know how I feel about Buzzy Cohen. I think he was one of the most outstanding, just in terms of personality, guests to ever grace the Jeopardy stage. Alex Trebek called him Mr. Personality, and he was my pick to replace Alex Trebek. But in truth, he's done a lot of stuff that he probably could never have done. Like he's been on this The Chase, which is on ABC, which is their game show. He's done the Jeopardy podcast, and now he has a new book out, and he joins us now, the great Buzzy Cohen, everybody.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Look at you, Buzz.
Yes, very
course,
casual, Buzzy.
Exciting.
You probably haven't seen me in anything but a suit, but I'm getting ready to play tennis. And the LA fans who are watching would recognize that I'm not, in fact, wearing a Lakers, but a Langers hat here.
Oh, it's a Langers hat that looks with the Lakers colors. I see. Very clever. So, Buzzy Cohen, first of all, I love that you're here today because Jeopardy is doing something right now. And then I want to get to your book, and I'll get to your book super quickly because the new trivia book's called Baby Got Facts. It's totally 90s trivia. And as I say, well, there it is. Good. And it just dropped. So our audience will jump all over it. But I want to talk more about that in a second. What I was going to say is that you're here now is at a kind of inflection moment in Jeopardy because Jeopardy has a whole primetime offering going on right now that is really quite extraordinary.
Yeah. The Jeopardy Masters, this is their second year doing it. But what's interesting to me about this year is that this is the first time that they have really put into practice what the executive producer Michael Davies has been sort of dreaming and scheming about, which is the pyramid, right? He was the creator of Men in Blazers. He's a British guy, loves soccer, loves that whole idea of there's this pyramid that you can climb up. And so partially because he was building out what that would be, and also because of the writer's strike, there were a bunch of tournaments that were kind of feeding into this Masters tournament for $500,000.
And the people who are playing into that Masters tournament are all people that we know, although, there's some upsets here. I mean, I think we expect certain outcomes, having watched Jeopardy for some time. But when you put all of you brainiacs together, it is really wild to see which one moves on or which one prevails.
And I think that's actually kind of a benefit to how they've set up this tournament, which is that every hour-long episode has 2 games, and you're going to see every combination of the 6 contestants play each other. So you get to see, everyone play every episode, which is always great. And also, you really get to see how different playing styles, different knowledge bases kind of stack up in a way that even in a, Tournament of Champions or the Jeopardy Invitational Tournament, which they had earlier this year, you don't always get everybody facing everybody. And that's kind of a cool thing about this smaller pool.
One of the things I learned from the podcast that you did, which I really thought was great, I still recommend everybody, should be on that podcast and listen to it, because the art, I'll call it, or skill might be a better word, of buzzing in, of getting, that is something that's, and I think, an acquired skill. I remember talking to us once before about the fact that you practiced it, before you went on the show. And you talk about, and one of the things I liked in the podcast, as I recall, is you talked about the evolution of that and everything. But I think that whole skill is evened out with these people. The tournament of, the Masters tournament, everybody, I assume, is pretty good at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing. And what's, you see people who are used to always getting every clue that they want struggling a little bit, because it's really, you're getting down to the wire. It's almost like, watching Formula One racing, where it's, the decision and the timing becomes so precise. So it's very cool to see. And personally, I like seeing people who are amazing, kind of up against the best and having to work really hard for every buzz,
Yeah, it's funny. When I was watching, I saw Holzhauer doing that thing that kind of newbies do, where they're going like that, to indicate, hey, I'm trying to buzz in, but I'm
just jamming on it. Yeah.
It was kind of wild. All right. So the last time I talked about it, which was last week, I got warned, please, no spoilers and stuff. So I'm not going to discuss it in any kind of other way. Except to say it really is, I think, a lot of fun. And there are super unexpected things that happen in that in the Masters tournament, which is in prime time now.
And I got to go to some of the tapings, so I've seen some stuff that hasn't aired. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it continues to be great all the way through to the end.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hey, has there ever been anybody who's violated that NDA after having been part of it? I mean, or maybe even accidentally violated.
Well, I think the only time that I remember anything like that happening was that somehow it leaked the day before James lost.
Sure.
But I think that was actually from an affiliate. It wasn't a contestant. The contestants really take it seriously because, I think also you realize that it kind of ruins it. There's no benefit. What do you get? It's not like leaking a new Taylor Swift song where it's okay, I've released it to her fans. It's like, oh, this person wins. It's like, oh, great. Now it's just not fun,
Right. And then, and no one appreciate you for it. They actually don't like you for it. I mean, you gain no sort of social status as a result.
There's no cachet.
Exactly.
No cachet. And so, and also I think, Jeopardy contestants tend to be people who like things being fair and honest. And so I think they take that stuff seriously.
Now to your book, Baby Got Facts, Totally 90s Trivia. Tell me about this book. and the kinds of questions and the kinds of facts that are in this book?
Yeah, I really, really tried to capture. There's no way to capture everything, and like the second I finished the book, I was like, oh, I should have done a chapter on this stuff or that stuff. But I tried to get as much of the 90s that is rolling around in all of our heads and our hearts into this book as possible. So there's plenty of pop culture stuff. There's stuff that was pop culture if you were a kid in the 90s. There was stuff that was pop culture if you were an adult in the 90s. All of that stuff. And as well as, current events. There's a whole chapter on the Clinton administration. There's plenty of stuff about kind of geopolitics. And it's just like, I really tried to also just make it really fun and informative, not just facts like question answer, but I wanted to give people an opportunity to learn something cool that they can then bring and sound smart to their friends at the next dinner party.
We have a very big dinner party crowd who are part of our viewer base. So this could be very helpful.
No, that's what I heard. Yeah.
In the chat, there is a link to Buzzy's book, and then under this video, we're going to break this separate as a video, and we're also going to under the live show. There is a link to Buzzy's book. Now, Kim, I'm going to ask you why I don't have a copy of Buzzy's book right now so that I could be referring to it.
Oh, my God, you do have a copy. They sent you a PDF copy.
Oh, they did?
What do I have to do around this place to
Oh
get
my
it
God.
figured out?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I don't see the PDF.
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Okay, anyway, the point is, Buzzy, I'm sorry
Yes.
I don't have...
All right, I'll hit you. Do you want me to hit you with a couple
Thank you.
fun
Yeah,
questions?
just give me a needle drop. Just crack it open and let's try.
All right.
Kim, you're in this, and Tony, and everybody in the chat. This is stuff from the new Buzzy Cohen book, Baby Got Facts.
This is from Quiz 6, Potpourri, the 90s potpourri. So a little bit of everything for those of you who are not familiar with the potpourri category. Thank you. I was waiting for it. Sergei Krikalev, known as the last Soviet, had what job during the dissolution of the Soviet Union?
Wow. What? Anybody with guesses in the chat before I take a guess? Here's the question again. One more time, please.
Yes. Sergei Krikalev, known as the last Soviet, had what job during the dissolution of the Soviet Union?
Maud is saying janitor. I'm going to say, do you have a guess, Kim, before I guess?
Was he the guy that had to go around and take down all the flags?
No. That's a good guess.
The flag taker downer?
Yeah, the flag down guy. Yeah.
Was he Minister of Peace, says Ricky O'Bear. Food tester, says William. Sorry. That was
Are you guys, is everyone ready?
Yeah, I'm going to put him on a security detail of some kind. What was the answer?
He was a cosmonaut. He was up in the space station Mir. He was up in the space station Mir. He ended up being up there about twice as long as planned because while he was up there, the country that sent him into space ceased to exist.
Wow, that's just a wild story. And Gregory, I will give you credit. Gregory's answer came in time.
Yeah, so, well done.
Wow, impressive, Gregory. Yeah, very nice.
So yeah, in addition to sort of these standard question and answer, there are all kinds of bonus quizzes as well. So here's a list of actresses from the 90s, and you have to figure out which of them played Jerry's girlfriend on an episode of Seinfeld. I have one that is a map of the McAllister house. Let me see if I can find this one quickly. There's a map of the McAllister house, and you have to figure out where the various booby traps from Home Alone were placed.
That's great. That's great.
So all kinds of stuff like that. Here's one. I'm just showing you the bonus ones. The other ones are questions and answers. These are celebrity couples. You have to figure out who the celebrity couple is. A little description.
That's give us one of those celebrity couples.
Yeah, let's do that. Here we go. NK plus TC. After meeting on the set of Days of Thunder, this couple was married in 1990 and appeared in 2 more films together before splitting up in 2001.
Yeah. Kim?
Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise.
All right.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I went for an easy one, so I didn't have to double check and check the answers. Here's one. Here's this is power ballad, just lyrics, right? So you have to tell me what song this was. Hold on, little girl. Show me what he's done to you.
Oh.
I can sing it, but I don't know what it is.
Well, what?
Sing it,
little girl. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Sing
That's
it again,
To
Kim.
Be With You by Mr. Big.
That's right.
That's it. Okay.
All right, here's another fun one. This is from another one about games and stuff like that. Games and toys. What toy introduced in the United States in 1997 has a name that is a portmanteau of the Japanese words for egg and watch?
Is it Furby? No.
Furby's a guess. Does anyone in the chat want to?
Anybody in the chat? One more time, Buzz. One more time on it, on the question.
Yeah. What toy introduced in the United States in 1997 has a name that is a portmanteau of the Japanese words for egg and watch?
Pikachu is the guess from John. Tamagotchi is the several people with Tamagotchi.
Tamagotchi is correct. Tamago, like when you go to sushi and you get eggs, tamago. And the Japanese word for watch is uwachi.
Wow, very nice. Very nice crew.
Very, very good. You got some smart people playing here. So there's music, there's books, all kinds of different stuff.
Are you trying to say Furby wasn't smart? That's what you're trying to say?
You said it.
Oh my God, Kim.
All right. Here we go. Ready? Here's a question on a chapter about Clueless. Any Clueless fans here?
Totally.
All right. What kind of car does Cher have in spite of not having her license?
Cheap.
Any other guesses out there?
What kind of car does Cher have in spite of not cheap, says Pauline.
Oh, someone's clueless.
I am clueless, says Ricky. A Mercedes,
correct.
says John.
It is a Jeep. Jeep
It
Wrangler.
is a Jeep. Very nice, Kim. Kim did buzz in early with that.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So yeah, I mean, I can go all day.
Give me a couple more because Kim's on a roll.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. In 1992, then President H.W. Bush, while attending a banquet, threw up in the lap of the dinner host, who happened to be the prime minister of what country?
Oh, that's a great question. I love this question.
Japan or China, right? China.
Let's ask Japan, says Pauline.
Japan, yeah.
Japan says William. Rain says there's a lot of Japan in the...
correct.
Japan is correct. Well done.
All right, here we go. Here's another
fun book. I love it.
Here's another kind of current events one. In 1992, what former Eastern Bloc state peacefully split into two countries, each retaining roughly half of the former country's name?
Serbia, I think, was the. Am I wrong? Croatia? No. Serbia? No.
Neither of those are. Well, I'm not going to say.
Neither of those is correct. Czechoslovakia is the. Yugoslavia.
Czechoslovakia is correct. The Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Wow.
Very good. All right.
Very nicely done, guys. Colleen Shannon is one.
Do we have time for a movie question?
Yes, please.
All right. What 1993 comedy starred Pauly Shore as Crawl, a spaced-out Californian who experiences culture clash when he spends Thanksgiving with his friend Becca's family in South Dakota?
Oh, this is a great question.
That was a dumb movie. I saw it. I don't
it's
remember.
Not
the name
dumb.
of it.
It's a great
It's
film.
a totally dumb movie.
How dare you, Kim?
It's not a movie. It's a film. Son-in-law. BW Rock is right.
Son-in-law,
All right, and here is Can I give you one more movie question? Because I love this
of
question.
course, yes.
Ingmar Bergman's 1957 film, The Seventh Seal, features a knight playing chess with death for his soul. What 1991 sequel film parodied this with the protagonist challenging death to games of Battleship, Clue, Electric Football, and Twister, and winning all of them?
How did I miss that movie?
I didn't see it, but now I want to.
Yeah. Really? Oh, you got it, Tony?
Oh, yeah, it's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, right?
He's got it.
Thanks, Tony.
Bill and Ted's. Yeah. That's terrific. Wow.
Anyway,
yeah.
The
this
hits
is
keep
really
coming.
Fun, man.
Tried to do a variety. So there's stuff on food, on drinks. Some of them are very hard, and some of them are pretty easy.
Give us a food. Give us a food. Give us a food.
Let me find our food chapter here. Give me a second to
food or drink.
Here we go. So these are all actually not just about food. These are about restaurants founded in the 90s.
Okay.
All right. Let me find. What restaurant chain was co-founded in 1991 by John Y. Brown Jr., former CEO of KFC and governor of Kentucky from 1979 to 83, and more memorably, a country singer who was the restaurant's namesake?
No, I'm thinking of all. Those are all older. Like the Roy Rogers that was ages ago. Kenny Rogers is one of them. Is that in there?
Kenny Rogers Roaster.
Wow, Kenny Rogers Roaster. I got that from the chat. Very impressive. Who had it? Jenny. Everybody had it.
I've got a harder one. You want a harder one?
Yeah, apparently.
While not a chain or a household name, the French restaurant Aubergine, which opened in the Chelsea district of London in 93 and eventually got 2 Michelin stars, launched the career of its head chef, who is very much a household name, who ran the kitchen there until 1998 when he and the staff staged a walkout.
Was it Thomas Keller?
I'm waiting for the chat. Let's see. I also
Emerald.
It wasn't Gordon. Was it Emerald? No. Gordon Ramsay, maybe. Wolfgang Puck. Somebody's suggesting Ramsay. Several people Ramsay now.
Gordon Ramsay is correct.
Love it.
Yeah. Here's also another fun one. P.F. Chang's took its name from founders Paul Fleming, P.F., and Philip Chang. He got rid of an I to make it from Chiang to Chang. In which Arizona city did this Asian fusion restaurant get its start? I gave you 4 options in the book: Phoenix, Flagstaff, Scottsdale, or Tucson.
Oh. Well, I love multiple choice.
Phoenix
says Colleen.
Right. Oh, okay. Everyone says Phoenix.
No, yeah. Tucson says S.J. Lola. Tucson says Quayne. Scottsdale says John. They're all over the board on this one. I would say Phoenix as well, but no.
They were from Scottsdale.
Scottsdale. Phineas had it. Vilma had it. John had it. Wow.
All right. I'm going to give you a drink one now, okay?
Yes, please.
Launched in 1992, what was the name of the clear cola drink from PepsiCo, which had basically the same formula as Pepsi Cola, only without the caramel color? It was launched with an ad campaign featuring Right Now by Van Halen.
Was it called Pepsi Clear or Pepsi Clean? Pepsi Clear.
It was not. Well, I don't know.
Pepsi Free, Pepsi Zero. Crystal is suggested by. That sounds right. No?
The correct answer is Crystal Pepsi.
Crystal Pepsi. We needed. Okay. I love when they do that on Jeopardy. I'm sorry, we needed Crystal Pepsi.
Crystal Pepsi. Yeah.
Now on Jeopardy,
yes,
former champion Buzzy Cohen. Would they have accepted Crystal, or would you have had to say what is Crystal Pepsi?
Well, you'd have to say what is,
right?
And I think sometimes they'll give the host. I know this because I guest hosted, but they'll give the host sometimes if you say Crystal, it'll say if you need to prompt them to be more specific.
I see. And so you'll say, could you be more specific? And then, then what is Crystal Pepsi? Yeah, I see. That's cool.
But yeah, it turns out there was a whole clear craze for drinks, which also brought us some of the other drinks that I talk about in that chapter, because everybody was making clear drinks. That was like the thing. There was one of the drinks, a famous 90s drink, which your guests will probably get, was actually an attempt to make essentially a clear beer. And it was from the Slavic word for ice, I think, or winter. And yes, it is Zima.
Oh, wow. Zima. Great knowledge.
Yeah.
You know who was
William
involved in that
Martinez.
research, Kim, to make the clear beer was
Emil Schaffhausen.
III. Yeah, exactly. What movie is that from, Buzzy Cohen? That
Emil Schaffhausen.
I have no idea.
It's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, I love that film.
Yeah. Buzzy, I just think this is a great idea. And I think this is going to be part of like a whole series you're going to do. Baby Got Facts, the new Buzzy Cohen, totally 90s trivia book. And the only sad part of this is that you're not delivering every question, because I think you have... Dude, you've got the thing. You've got the special sauce.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's true. It's true. Now, are you still doing The Chase?
The Chase is not canceled, but we have not heard. We're waiting to hear about that. So
I see.
Technically, yes, I am.
You're still part of the game.
Chase. Yeah.
And there are a couple of people, I mean, that's what this Masters tournament's about on Jeopardy, who have come from that world, The Chase.
Yeah, so Victoria Gross, who's in the Masters now, she won the Jeopardy Invitational Tournament, is one of the chasers who joined with me in season 3. James obviously has been on The Chase since the beginning. Brandon Blackwell, who you can see all the way on the right, was in the Jeopardy Invitational Tournament as well. He's a great quizzer. He's actually on The Chase Australia as well, I believe. He and Victoria are people who kind of came not quite the direct Jeopardy route into this, but are very formidable. Victoria actually was a champion, almost 20 years ago. She beat someone named Dave Madden, who has a lot of records. He was like a 19-day champion, I think. She beat him, but then didn't go on a big run herself. Brandon was actually on Kids Jeopardy when he was, he was very young. So he hasn't been eligible to come back, but because of his bona fides with The Chase and other things, he got invited for that invitational and comported himself well.
Well, this Victoria came out of left field. I wasn't aware of her before, and she's a force.
When I've said it on the podcast with Jeopardy, and I'll say it here, when we watch her play on The Chase, she is unbelievable. Fast, depth of knowledge. I remember sitting in the Chaser Lounge. It was me, James, and her, and she it was one of these multiple choice questions that basically nobody knows, and you're making the best guess you can. And she just knew all this stuff out of thin air, and James just turned to her and said, "How do you know that? How does anybody know that?" And it's just that's how good she is. She's really and a very nice person, which goes a long way.
Isn't that great? I love it. Well, it's really an exciting way to see, as I say, all of you guys kind of square off against each other. So we'll watch continue to watch. In the meantime, the book is Baby Got Facts, and you can see it there. Also, hot link to it underneath this video, and also underneath, wherever you're seeing this video, whether it's a separate video or beneath the live show, it's there also. And I just would recommend the podcast that Buzzy does. If you're a Jeopardy fan, it's really great to hear people who really know Jeopardy talk about Jeopardy.
And one of the producers, Sarah Foss, who produces the show, and the executive, when I'm not there, the executive producer, Michael Davies, is there. We often have guests of really people from either contestants or people who are part of making the show. So it's a really fun way to kind of go deeper beyond just the 30 minutes a night we get of Jeopardy. It's not enough. Well, now we get it, another hour.
Yes, another hour. I'm looking forward to tonight. Where as we talk to you, this is Monday, and Monday night is, and I think it's going to be 3 times this week, or I know there's a Friday episode also this week.
Yeah, they're doing a couple this week.
Yeah, great. Buzzy, good luck with the book. Come back and visit. Somebody said it in the comments. You should do a regular segment. Here it is. BW says, we need trivia with Buzzy as a regular spot on the show. Fun stuff. It really was fun. So I hope you'll come back.
My pleasure. I would love to.
Big fan, Buzzy. You know that. We love you here. All the best, pal. All right, congratulations. Buzzy Cohen. Bye, Buzzy.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. Tell me what's happening, Kim. That was really fun with Buzzy. I turned to Kim because she kind of keeps an eye on.
Wish I had done better on the trivia there, but that was pretty fun.
Well, I didn't.
It was great. I loved it.
I know. I didn't. I don't do well with it either, as you could tell.
I feel like I had a chance to step it up there, and I just kind of fell flat. Look at Spencer.
I would not. I'd not be too hard on myself, Kim.
I blame you.
Okay, I'll take the blame if that makes it easier for you. $5 super sticker from Spencer. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Appreciate that. That's super cool. And how about Tracy Pyers? Have you tried 12-month
V
in Burlingame plant-based? It's wonderful. I haven't. I didn't know about it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Tracy Pyers. First of all, thank you, Tracy, for the $10 super chat.
Big shout out.
Have you tried 12-month V in Burlingame plant-based? It's wonderful. No, in fact, we will try it. There's some great plant-based restaurants around the Bay Area, and I'll tell you honestly, in San Francisco, there are fewer than there should be. There are fewer plant-based options, but they're also sort of these classic restaurants like the Tadiches of the world that just don't offer you any room to run. But anyway, thank you for that tip. Mike Ekstrom, how about a $20 super sticker from Mike?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I'm not going to cry, but I do appreciate support from the audience because this is how we stay on the air. So thank you, Mike. Mike Ekstrom. Do I have time? At the end of the show, I will recognize a couple of new Patreon supporters and PayPal supporters. Really excited to have you guys in our community of supporters. We're a crowd-funded show, so it means a lot that you would be part of the crowd that funds. Now, on Mondays, we like to turn our attention was it first Monday of the month that we do it?
First Monday of the month.
First Monday of the month, we do it in a segment we call A Word About Animals.
Now, a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
And how about it for our visitor for A Word About Animals, Karen Dawn. She is the founder of Dawn Watch. You can find Dawn Watch, the daily animal world news watch, across Facebook. It's a really vibrant Facebook community, and also you just can Google it and find Dawn Watch. And when it comes to animals, it's a great way to get a snapshot of what's happening in the world, both with media coverage and also with our own disposition toward animals. So
Google it.
Yeah, Google it. And welcome, Karen. Hello.
So good to see you, Mark. What a fun show.
Really, Buzzy's always fun, so thank you for saying that. Yes.
Totally. And how perfect to see that Kristi Noem interview at the top, because I really wanted to talk about her. And that was and you noticed I wasn't familiar with the interviewer, but she did such a superb job holding her.
She really did. I agree. And for those who missed it, you can go back and find it at the beginning of the show. We were just astounded at how I thought she stayed with it. She didn't let her just filibuster her way out of it. And I saw her, and I'd be curious, even if this is not what you're talking about, I know maybe you feel like it's been talked out, but I'd love just your take on it, because I think you do come at it from such an educated perspective. It seemed to me that the desire that Kristi Noem has to normalize it, to sort of suggest this is the way it is. You know, the dog, wasn't behaving, and so we shot it. I mean, that's what we do out here. And I did the tough job of shooting the dog. Whatever, that's kind of what she's trying to sell as essentially a normalization of that sort of thing. How do you feel as though, what's your take on that? And how do you feel as though that's playing? Like, how do you think it's landing?
How it's playing and how it's landing is absolutely fascinating to me because people are so utterly mortified. But Mark, I adore you. I think it's so funny because I was nervous about talking about this because I thought Mark is not going to see this how I do. And my brother Josh said, well, that's why he likes having you on, because you have interesting perspectives. And I said, well, I sure hope so. Because it's certainly not playing well that she's trying to say, well, that's how things are on the farm. And I was going to share today a letter, and I've decided to go in a different direction than sharing that letter because the letter goes into our whole treatment of animals, including eating meat, etc. But and this was the letter that was published in the Baltimore Sun, and I was shocked that they published it as their lead letter because it was really calling people out on the reaction to Kristi Noem. But in the last line of the letter, it says, you're blaming her for being able to do the dirty work for you. Now, I have to say, Mark, that it fascinated me that people are so mortified that she shot this dog when we are still killing 1 million dogs in America every year for lack of homes. And the interviewer said something like, well, why didn't you just bring it to the shelter? And if the doggy gets brought to the shelter and has a history of trying to bite people and of killing chickens, that doggy gets killed at the shelter. And I'm not sure that well, actually, no, I am sure that it's not better than being killed at your own home by the person who you trust. So I am not a fan of Kristi's. I don't want to buy her a drink. And I certainly got a load of her character from that interview you did with her on other issues. But on this particular issue, I'm interested in people's interest in pointing the finger at how other people treat animals and being less willing to look at how most of us treat animals. And, anybody who's ever brought a dog to a kill shelter has killed that dog in a much more slow and sad and painful way than Kristi Noem did. And anybody, my gosh, and, I'm talking about saying the rough stuff here, but I think, every time it's time for folks to realize that when they buy a dog from a breeder, they sort of are killing a shelter dog. And I think a lot of folks know that, and that's why more and more people are adopting, and that's why we have the adopt, don't shop hashtag. But there's, it's easier to blame Kristi Noem and say, how could she shoot her dog? And the answer is, well, there's other ways to kill dogs besides shooting them on your own ranch. And most folks do it all the time. And I think it's more useful for us to look at that than to have fun pointing the finger at Kristi Noem. And Kim said something. And I love Kim, and I love, you can just sort of, when she speaks, you feel her whole heart and her love of people and of animals as well.
Wow.
That these are issues that she doesn't think about as much as some of us do, or as certainly as I do. I spend my life devoted to them. And she meant, when Commander was mentioned, Kim said, well, that's a whole different story. Commander is a rescue dog. And oh my God, my heart just almost skipped a beat when she said that, because yes, Commander was a rescue dog, but 95% of rescue dogs don't bite people. And dogs who are bought from breeders are just as likely to bite people as rescue dogs. So I really want to get rid of this.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so you're saying, hey, look, I don't want you to think that, oh, well, it's a rescue dog, because that's a smear on all rescue dogs to think that is.
And to be honest, Joe Biden, in keeping Commander in the White House, if he's biting people, may have killed a lot more dogs than Kristi Noem if people got the idea that this is what rescue dogs do. And that's just putting it out there. I'm
Sure,
not saying
that's
it's
interesting.
necessarily true,
Well,
but I
that's your
hope it's an
provocative
interesting
thing that you always do. Yeah, you make us think about this stuff. You know, I don't know. I avoid some of this stuff because it's so dark. But one of the things I think that there can be no disagreement on. Certainly, I would think with this audience, although the audience is made up of many different perspectives, is the use of dogs in these labs. You know, using animals in labs, and these dogs never see the light of day. They never, and they're bred. This is why they use beagles often, because they're bred for being so docile that you can essentially do anything to them, and they won't bite or or yelp or whatever. They are. It's horrifying, honestly, and I've supported efforts to get dog and animal testing out of labs in every way imaginable, and still it's a big industry, you know. So when you talk about dogs, they're just, and animals generally, there's just so many different ways in which they can be abused or exploited, and that's yet another one, you know.
That is so true. I am actually not going to go down that animal testing road right now, because we could definitely do a whole segment on beagles and what we do to them, and on what that letter said about, you know, if you're eating animals, then how can you blame Kristi Noem, et cetera. And I would say that anybody who's upset about her killing the goat should look what happens in slaughterhouses. It's a lot worse than what she did to that goat. But back to rescues and this idea that if we have why didn't she bring it to the shelter? One of the reasons she didn't bring it to the shelter is because there are so many absolutely lovable, beautiful dogs in the shelter who are getting killed for lack of homes, that if you have a difficult dog and you bring that dog to the shelter, you are probably condemning them to a long, slow death. And I want to get the mood up here a little bit by talking about Winky Smalls. It was so fun to see you at the Mercy for Animals Gala. And I don't know if I introduced Winky Smalls to you, Mark, but he was with me as my date. And if you didn't notice him, it's because it's the way he behaves. He's absolutely unnoticeable. And Tony just put his beautiful little face up on this screen there for folks to look at. I met Winky when I went to the shelter to meet a different dog who my friend Sheree Shanker wanted me to meet, named Peanut. And when I went and met Peanut, who is the cutest, most adorable dog in the world, I learned that Peanut wasn't good with other dogs. And for me, that was a deal breaker, because for 17 years, I had a dog who wasn't good with other dogs, and I wanted a good with other dogs. So I went and I looked around the shelter, and I saw that face you see on the screen staring up at me. And I had a soft spot for brindles. So when I see this beautiful little brindle staring up at me, and on top of it, you put in the one eye and the head tilt, I thought that was the cutest dog I had ever seen. And I thought, the problem is everybody's going to want that dog. And I really wanted to rescue. I wanted to get a dog who not necessarily everybody was going to want, but who I was going to want because they were going to be easy and I could take them to the dog park and they wouldn't have dog fights. So I went up to the front desk and I said, who's been here the longest? Who's great with other dogs? And the gal at the front desk thought, and she said, Smalls. And I said, which one's that? And she described him as the brindle with one eye. And my heart just leapt. And I'm like, you're kidding. I thought he was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. Can I meet him? And when I met him, he crawled on top of me, cuddled up next to me. It was love at first sight. Now, if she said, oh, by the way, he bites people and he chases children, yeah, I wouldn't have taken him, because there's no shortage of dogs in the shelter who don't bite people or chase children or fight with other dogs. But I took Winky. And by the way, his name was Smalls, but being Australian, we sort of have to call attention to the defect. So I had to call him Winky, and I wanted him to keep his gangster roots. So he's Winky Smalls. Winky has been the blessing of my lifetime. He is a little Buddha. He goes everywhere with me, except when he's home playing with his beautiful brother, Elijah McLean. And he is a rescue dog, and he is nobody who meets him. People are just like, where did you find this little Buddha? So I just wanted to mention that Kristi Noem's, why didn't she take Cricket to a shelter? If the shelter wasn't full of beautiful adoptable, lovely dogs, that would have been an option. And Cricket might have ended up at a retirement home for problem dogs. Like Best Friend takes in a lot of dogs who can't find homes. Winky Smalls, by the way, was in the shelter for 8 months. Nobody wanted him because, you know, he wasn't perfect looking and he didn't interview well. He's not particularly effusive. But I just hope that people who are horrified by what Kristi Noem did with her dog on the ranch will ask themselves if they do the best thing by dogs always, if they might be inadvertently responsible for another dog's death because they are thinking of buying the next dog from a breeder, or because they did drop a dog off at the shelter and might make a vow never to do that again. That's what I would hope we might do, is rather than have fun pointing our fingers at Kristi Noem, who's pretty easy to point a finger at,
Sure.
to look at our own behavior and just ask ourselves why the country gets so incensed when somebody kills the dog, and then allows what happens to dogs to happen in this country. It shouldn't. And you mentioned animal testing. Of course, we shouldn't be testing on dogs for a country that loves dogs, let alone going to the other animals who we care less about. So I just would love to provide that bit of food for thought and share my little Buddha, Winky Smalls, who was in the shelter for 8 months before I took him home.
That's extraordinary. And it's a wonder that, you know, I'm active in another shelter. I was going to say it's a wonder that the dog hasn't lost its marbles in that time. That's why it's so important that volunteer work, and even just go to volunteer, you walk the dog, you spend time with the dog, you continue to socialize the dog.
That's why he didn't lose his marbles, actually, Mark. He was at Best Friends and he was taken out on walks 4 times a day, and you got pity play groups on Saturdays, and he stayed there for 8 months, and look what happened.
John points this out, I mean, because unless you think too well of Kristi, John says that probably wasn't what Kristi was thinking, that he'd die more slowly at a shelter. I mean, she wasn't really thinking 2 steps ahead. But your point is, yeah, but the thinking that she does is the thinking that you do out there in that world in which she operates. So Karen Dawn, as usual, provocative and sort of a different take on it. You know, I'm a knee-jerk kind of, oh my God, it's horrible, how could you? Plus, I think that the brutality toward animals is something that when I read about it and see it, I just want to, I want to stop. So I want to stop it everywhere. And like, I don't care, well, that's the way it is out here. You know, it's brutal out here in the rural community. Yeah. Well, maybe we could turn the brutality down a little bit. Maybe there's another way in which these things can be done without it being so very brutal.
Amen.
Yeah. Anyway, check her out. Dawn Watch actually gives her a forum, Karen Dawn, to even expand on some of these issues, and she can show her math in ways that, you know, we're limited a little bit here in our conversation. But so she has some thoughts on this, and she does show her math if you're interested more in the Kristi Noem stuff. It's dawnwatch.com, and also, as I say, on Facebook. I think she's really active on Facebook. And so those of you who are into the Facebook world, I think you'll love that. Again, Daily Animal World News Watch is Dawn Watch. You can find her here first Monday of every month. Karen, so appreciate your input, and thank you for being here today.
Always great to see you. Thank you, Mark, for this forum.
That's a word about animals.
Join the flock. Again next time for A Word About Animals on The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I really wanted to take a moment to thank a couple of Patreon folk. You know, we're on Patreon and PayPal, and this is a great way to support the show. We're really NPR PBS model. You know, those people who come on during the pledge break and they go, you know, if you like the show and you want to see it survive, please consider a monthly contribution. So we're those people at moments like this. I will take Super Chat for $5, Mark. What a cool segment. Please invite Buzzy back, says Luis. Luis, big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the 5 spot. And thank you, everybody who has contributed through Super Sticker and Super Chat today. And the Patreon members, I want to welcome Patricia. Patricia just became a $5 a month subscriber or supporter,
big shout
as
out.
we call it. And we appreciate you, Patricia. Really cool. And that's
Welcome
not all.
aboard. Yeah. Oh.
Ren, who was already in our Patreon community, added her membership from $12 to $21 a month.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. I'm not going to cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
She just
But
did a little
Ren, that
flipperoo with the
does
numbers there. That's cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really does matter. Thank you. Tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. You can never say thank you so much, too much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, I don't think we should test that. I've just said you can't say it.
I'm a little disappointed.
What's that, Kim?
I feel like we didn't have time for what I was looking forward to. One of the stories that we had, a televangelist theater story.
Well, I'll tell you, we didn't have time for a bunch of stuff. There is a televangelist theater. Well, I'll tell you something. I could do the televangelist theater. We still have another minute or so. And there's another, I had a really great Law and Disorder, but a lot of the Law and Disorder stuff has got a half-life that will extend through tomorrow, so we can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
It's funny. I'll tell you an inside KGO story. So KGO, for those of you who don't know, that was the radio station that we were on, and we came from that station here when the station went away. It's a very successful, big-time talk radio station, but it was run by a corporate entity in Atlanta. Is that where they were? In the East Coast somewhere?
Yeah,
and they
Atlanta.
decided that, they just kind of consolidated.
And on Peachtree Court or something in Atlanta.
Peachtree Court,
yeah.
So when I first started at KGO, my producer was a guy named Dave. Very smart guy, went to Brown University, but he was really burnt out. I mean, the radio business and KGO, with all the changes and stuff along the way, had really just, I think, crushed him, right? So I used to call him Evil Dave. That was just the thing. He was anything but evil. He was the nicest guy, but I love the narrative of Evil Dave, rushing me to a break, cutting off a conversation. Evil Dave. I always called him Evil Dave. So, the end of the show would come, and I'd say what Kim just said, which is, I had a great televangelist theater that I'm going to have to do, and I've got a great Law and Disorder. And I remember Evil Dave saying to me, Mark, don't at the end of the show say what you wanted to have on the show. In other words, you had a great show, but somehow at the end of the show you go, oh my God, I didn't get to this, I didn't get to that. It leaves people with the wrong impression of the show. But I still end up doing it. It's a crazy fact. So I feel you on this. So it's also a way of saying tomorrow we can do Law and Disorder and I can do televangelist theater. That's probably the best way to do it, don't you think?
Yeah, that's good. Can I tell you something about Spencer? Spencer keeps throwing $5 at us. He's done it 3 times now. 5, 5, 5, 5. Keeps
Do you
throwing
think
fives.
that maybe his, the button on his phone is stuck or something? And
Big shout out.
Big shout out for Spencer Jaffe.
Big shout out.
Big shout out for Spencer Jaffe.
Big shout out.
Big shout out for Spencer Jaffe. $5, $5, $5. Listen, I'll stay on the air for that. Yeah. Turn the page, Mark, says Beth. Is that a reference to me hanging on to a KGO story? Spencer Jaffe is awesome, says BA.
Yep.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Big shout out, Spencer.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Making it rain, says Heather. You know it. Loving it. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Well, I'll tell you, I'd love to stay on the air. Ricky says, shout out to Spencer. Yeah. Loving it. Yeah, I'm hoping they're legitimate donations. That's not just butt donations as he sits in some Uber somewhere and he goes, oh my God, I can't believe my phone just keeps contributing $5 to this podcast. But thank you.
Thank you so, so much.
Yes. After Party Live is going down with Kim. She does a whole other show.
We'll do it live.
Yeah.
I'll write it and we'll do it
No,
live.
you cannot do the things that we have planned on our show for tomorrow because we've got really good stuff. I've got a Law and Disorder, as I say, that is just spilling over with stuff you must know. Some of it's bizarre and some of it's really relevant. David K. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, joins us tomorrow. And we'll have televangelist theater as well. So much to do.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thanks to Buzzy Cohen. Thanks to Courtney.
All the time. Bye-bye.
Thanks to Karen Dawn. Thanks to all of you. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.